I got to shut. It'd be a good idea if I shut the air conditioner off. And we'll fan a little bit. And we're good. The only thing you have to do is look at the new ladder. The ladder camera, honey. That's pretty cool, right?
The ladder cam.
And
Louder though.
the ladder camera. And I'm a little surprised at 5:58 that I'm not seeing anybody here yet. Oh, there's one now. What?
You usually do?
Yeah, usually a minute before, but that's okay. And let's see how your camera's working. Your camera looks as beauteous as ever. Oh, you know what I wanted to tell you? There's a cup right there. See that VMXQA cup?
Yeah.
Yeah, take that out and put it up there for a second. Because you asked me about a check. Can you get that thing out? Because you asked me about a check. No, don't give it to me. Sit down. You need that. I don't need it.
I need it?
Yeah. You asked me about.
I did.
You asked me about. There's a check in there. Take it out. Because I'm going to forget it. In fact, there's a couple of checks.
I'm going to kill you.
Well, I get them out of the mailbox, and then I put them in that cup, and I sort of forgot. So there's a couple of checks in there.
I'm going to kill you.
Okay? And I need some of it back. But the rest of it is for you in the house and for anything you might need, like food and electric. Mortgage, electric, food. Okay?
The lights.
Okay then, Susan. I'm just saying, I did have, you mentioned it this morning. Do you have any money for me this week? Oh, thank God at 6 o'clock I don't have to have this conversation. All right?
We're going to continue this conversation.
Okay, we'll continue the conversation a little bit later. Right now, I got to start the show. Thanks, bye.
I'm Jerry Maddox.
And I'm Ryder Maddox in sunny California.
And you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, hosted by Joe Abbate.
Very funny, Joe.
Good evening, everyone. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, and I am your host, Joe Abbate. As you can see, Susie's still over there staring at checks that I forgot to tell her that I had. Thank you for joining me tonight. Don't forget to keep sharing the show. Susie, let me ask you, while there's still a moment, why can't I, here you are. Here you are, right here, my dear.
What?
No, don't kill me. Is everything okay? You got the checks? Everything's good?
You're very funny.
Yeah, I'm very funny.
This is how you deliver them?
No, I put them there so I don't lose them. Hey, let's change the subject. Check out the ladder cam. This is our new third camera we have in the studio tonight at Vintage Motocross Q&A. The VMXQ&A ladder cam. But let's get back to the matter at hand. I want to welcome you all. Thank you again for joining me. As always, we have to thank our sponsors, people who help make this show possible, Motion Pro, Vinco, the International Motocross Museum, Preston Petty Products, Full Circle Racing, my dear friend Mike Chamberlain, George Ackerman, Racer X, and ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com, FastGuyStuff.com, and Derf's. Always sharing the show, always with some good information and talking about our show wherever they may be out there in the World Wide Web and on Facebook. PayPal will gladly take a donation in any amount. Go over to PayPal. And you could do that directly, or if you go to the Vintage Motocross Q&A page, there is a donation link. It's very simple. You could do it whether you're a member of PayPal or not. It takes all types of credit cards.
QR code too, isn't it?
I do have a QR code too. I no longer put it here on the show because, well, you really can't see it. But there is one on the Vintage Motocross Q&A page. I want to welcome a new viewer and a person that we will be working with sort of hand in hand, Ben's Vintage Mini Bike Lovers podcast. They're not on every week, but they were on last Sunday. They got a new show coming up on September 8th. Anyway, if you're into mini bikes, like so many of us were, get over to Ben's Mini Bike Podcast. Always a good time, a lot of fun. The first time I watched the show the other day. Vintage Motocross Q&A sponsorship opportunities are still available. Get a hold of me, and you'll get the same treatment all of our other sponsors are receiving. Don't forget, we also have stickers available now. Vintage Motocross Q&A stickers. Susie makes these herself in her laboratory. They are very durable. They are laminated. They are 2 for $6, including shipping. Don't forget, keep sharing the show, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube. Mention a sponsor. Mention anything about the show. Anything you can do always helps. We will have. This week we're giving away. We're going to give away a poster from the International Motocross Museum, compliments of Terry Goods. So keep sharing the show, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll show you some of the posters that are available, and always something good here going on at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Right now, we are going to the Next Time Try This segment. This is a question that came in. It's a bit of an older video. You've probably seen it. I don't know. I might show it again someday if somebody asks. But for right now, let's take a look at what
Next Time Try This segment, which is brought to you by Vinco. I want to talk to you a little bit about transfer screws and what they are, how they can help you mount a number plate like this. Two bikes that come to mind are various years of the CZ and the 74 Yamaha YZ250A and 360A. When you go to mount those number plates on the sides of those bikes, there really isn't a way for you to tell exactly where the screws go if you're drilling a new plate like this one. I'm going to show you in just a minute what I do and how you get it right every time with accuracy. To begin with, what I did was I found two 6mm screws that were just like this, and I proceeded put them in a vise, and with a hacksaw, I cut the heads off so they looked like this. After that, I took them and I made a real sharp point on it with my grinder. You could even go on to make them sharper by using either a file or sandpaper, but the sharper you make them, the better this little project is going to work for you. Also, a little tip for you is when you go to your grinder and you want to make a point on these things, what I did was I took two little nuts like this, and I locked them together with two wrenches. Then I was able to hold it with a vice grip as I was able to carefully go around the grinder and put a point on it just like that. Now you've got the screws in place, and you've got a nice pointy front on it just like that. Screw them in as far as you need to. You don't want them sticking out too much, just enough for your point. And right now, you can take your number plate and you could put it wherever you like. So if you want it a little higher or a little more to the back, wherever you might want it, you now have the ability to place it where you need it, and you'll know exactly where the holes need to go. And with a good push on it, you don't need to hit it with a hammer or anything. With a good push on it, where the points are for your screws, when you turn that plate over, there's one right here, and there's one right here. You can now go drill your plate. You're going to have confidence that the holes are going to be right where you need them.
I'm Dave Arnold. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A with Joe Abbate. We'll be right back.
Vinco, who already has a full line of vintage parts, now has air shocks that are an exact duplicate of the original air shocks so popular in the late 70s. So whether you're looking to build a full racer or museum showpiece, these shocks will give you that incredible 70s look and improve your bike's performance. These new air shocks are fully rebuildable with Vinco rebuild kits, and all shocks are hand assembled in the USA with all new components. Every component is brand new. Just like the originals, our air shocks are adjustable with two chambers, high and low pressure, giving you tremendous flexibility for settings of your bike suspension. The Vinco air shocks come fully assembled and ready for installation. Just add air or nitrogen. The kits include the manual and spacers. Visit Vinco.com to check out the air shocks and all that Vinco has to offer to help you get back on track and to keep that ride going.
Vinco. They've got new Yamaha pistons over there for your DT125, 175 MX and ITs, the 250s, even the TY 250. Top end piston kit, standard and oversized at Vinco. And let's not forget that at Vinco, if you spend over $200, you get free shipping. Here it is in writing: free USPS priority mail shipping on orders over $200 from Vinco. In the What's It Worth segment tonight, we are going to take a look at a 1972 Husqvarna CR125. This is the segment of the show that's brought to you by Full Circle, but this is the segment of the show where I invite you, the viewers at home, to guess how much you think this bike recently sold for, and we are going to have a prize for this tonight. We've got Vintage Motocross Q&A stickers, just like this one that I had here just a moment ago. Here it is, Vintage Motocross Q&A sticker. Put it on the back of your pickup truck or wherever you want people to know that you watch Vintage Motocross Q&A. So, 1972 Husky 125. There's a beautiful picture of it right there. Bike recently sold on Bring a Trailer. I'll go through the slides. You take a good look at it, and you can guess how much you think this bike recently sold for. The CR125 is powered by a 124cc two-stroke single paired with a 6-speed transmission. It's finished in yellow over a silver frame. Features include a high-mounted expansion chamber and 21-inch and 18-inch rear rims and a front rim as well, of course, in alloy. It does have aluminum fenders as a crossbar pad and a crossbar handlebar. The shouldered rims are standard items on that bike for that year. Here's a good look at them right here, and they are finished very, very nicely as well. It also features white oval number plates, a side stand, aluminum, or I think they're stainless steel fenders, but it says aluminum fenders here, a black vinyl solo seat. It's got a single down tube frame. It is finished in silver. The seller notes that there are some chips in the paint and damage to the front number plate, and a photo showing the inside of the fuel tank can be viewed in the Shoto gallery. I didn't show it to you here, but it did look very, very clean. Something that did disturb me a little bit, and you can see it here in this picture, is those rusty 8 bolts that are on top of the triple clamp. Some of the hardware was a little bit less than stellar, I would say. Also, if you look here where that fender is mounted to that fender mount, the nylock are different colors. They just about make it through a thread or two on the nylock, but you know, I'm a stickler for hardware, and this bike just doesn't quite cut it for me. Here it is on the back fender, where you could also see where the bolts do not come through where the nylock is on the nut. There should be at least 3 threads showing there, at least 3 threads, 2 at a minimum, coming through there for when that nylock grabs the bolt. 124cc two-stroke, 20 horsepower engine, and it's equipped with an ammo carburetor and expansion chamber, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. The carburetor and ignition was serviced last February. Here's another good picture of it. The hardware looks fairly nice here. Just on a personal note, I always love that big dished sprocket on that Husky CR125. Anyway, this is the part of the show where you have to guess, you, the viewers at home, how much you think this bike recently sold for. The gas tank was nice on it. It was rust-free. The rims, hardware, I'd give it probably a 7.5 to an 8 out of 10. But what do you think this bike recently sold for? 65? 75? This bike sold for $8,100. $8,100. There is a 5% premium from Bring a Trailer. But you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to confuse things. Who got closest to 8,100, Susie, without going over?
Nobody.
Nobody? Well, if you should look and you see somebody that gets close, let me know their name, and congratulations, you won yourself a couple of stickers, Vintage Motocross Q&A stickers, just like that. We had some low bids there.
Yeah, really low.
Okay, what we're going to do is we are going to take a break for just a moment, and we will be back with more Vintage Motocross Q&A. We're going to hear from our friends over at Full Circle Racing. Tom McAllister and Full Circle Racing, been an amazing supporter of the show for so many years.
Karl McGregor, he said he wants that thing.
Hang on.
I get asked often, what's the most important thing on Clunker? Answer simple, it's me. That's why I use Full Circle Racing wheels prepped by Tom McAllister. So should you. Watch this and learn why. When racing vintage motocross where suspension is very limited, your wheels can be the difference between winning or serious injury. We chose to run full circle racing wheels because of the super high quality materials and the heavy duty spokes used. Prepped by Tom McAllister, I have the confidence on the track to push way harder through the rough stuff and the bigger jumps, knowing my wheels are going to stay under me. Hey, Clunker may be 50 years old, but his wheels are brand new, and yours should be too. Call Tom McAllister at Full Circle Racing today.
Tom McAllister, Full Circle Racing, always doing a great job for us here on our bikes as well. We're back on the Vintage Motocross Q&A ladder camera, our third camera here in the studio. We're really rocking and rolling here in technology. Susie, anybody come up with the right number for that Husky yet? $8,100 without going over? I'm going to keep that open for a while because I really want to give away some stickers. Okay?
No, the highest was by Rob Wilhelm, I think, was 6,300.
Right.
Hold on. 6,300 was the highest.
6,300 from Robert Wilhelm?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? We've also already told everybody how much the actual cost was.
Right.
So, you know what I'm going to do?
No.
I'm going to give the stickers to Robert Wilhelm. Robert Wilhelm, I've changed the rules because it's my show and I can do whatever I want. You are now the winner of the 2 Vintage Motocross Q&A stickers. Congratulations. Send me your address and we'll get those off to you lickety-split. Okay? What do we got coming up next on the show here, Susie? Oh, one of my favorite segments. Here's the problem. Here is the problem, brought to you by Motion Pro. Let's take a look at the first one and see what we have here. Kevin Corey Boston. Why is the 1978 and 79 really the same bike? Why are they the best motocross bikes ever made? Well, you know what, Corey? That may be your opinion, but I really couldn't disagree with you. They are an absolutely wonderful motorcycle. You can see here, look at the styling. They look a lot like the works bikes from that era. With that red engine, I don't think anybody else could possibly do that. Can-Am tried it once on an orange bike, but when you look at a Honda, how close it looked to the factory bikes of that time, it was certainly a head turner, and the reliability of the bike and its totally redesigned frame and engine and everything else about it certainly made it an amazing ride for that time. It didn't take much to turn it from just a stock bike with maybe some suspension mods, a little porting, and you probably have one of the best handling and certainly most reliable 250s out there in the district as far as your district races may go. Now, if you were on a higher level, let's say you were a pro rider in the support class at a national level somewhere, look what Motocross Fox offered for that bike at the time. I mean, you had the Fox Forks, you had that swing arm, those shocks, and of course the graphics. There was a lot of support for those bikes out there. And if you were in shape and you were a really, really good rider, you could probably keep up with just about any factory bike that was out there at the time in the 250 class. And even to this day, the bike is highly sought after. So why is it most popular? I think I just gave you about every reason I could think of. Also, 78, 79, who was on Team Honda? Jim Pomeroy, Brad Lackey, Warren Reed, Tommy Croft, and of course, Marty Smith. Who wouldn't want to be a part of that gang? Huh? That's why the 78 and 79 was such a great bike. Let's move on to the next question. We got it right here. It says the 78, 79 engine. I can't really see the question because it's blocked by it's blocked by the counter here. What this guy is asking is he's got a wallowed out engine case right here at the bottom where the front engine mount goes through there. It says the current bolt is 10 millimeter. However, that bolt hole up in front of the case right there is wallowed out. It's now become at least 11 millimeter and maybe more. What can I do about that? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is tell you that you should count your lucky stars, so to speak. I've seen those come loose on the front and on the back of Honda CR 125 and 250s throughout all the years, 74 right till 79. Here's a 74. It cracked on the top and on the bottom of that engine case. We had to have it welded, and I reshaped that case back to what you see right here. But I want to give you a little, well, I can't really give you a tutorial, so to speak, but I'm going to give you an idea of what you should be looking for or what you should do. Once again, let's take a look at that hole. Right now, you say it's about 11.5 millimeter. It's either you're going to weld it up and drill it through again, which I don't know if you want to do that. There's two halves of that case. You could weld each side. You're looking at splitting the cases, but it looks like you already have that done. Or you could try this. Get a sleeve like this, okay? You don't want it with a flange like I'm showing you here. You just want a sleeve. Drill out that hole that you have that's 11.5 millimeter, make it 12. This sleeve that you're going to put in there, you need to have at about 12 as well, or a little bit smaller. You don't want to have to press it in there. You don't really even want an interference fit. You just want to be able to push it through there with your finger nice and tight. You're then going to get something that has an internal diameter the same as your factory bolt. So the internal diameter of your sleeve should be about 10 millimeter or a little under to accept a 10 millimeter bolt. The outside of it should be just under whatever you drilled that hole to be to get that oblong out of there and make it true again. Don't make it a press fit. Don't make it a, well, interference would be okay. But don't forget, it's either you're going to do one on each side of the case, but if you do one all the way through, use caution. You want to be able to split those cases sometime in the future. You don't want to use a steel sleeve and you have your aluminum cases. Then you're going to have seizing through dissimilar metals, which means the aluminum and the steel are going to start eating into each other. It's going to create havoc. Get the right drill, make that oblong hole oval again, get a sleeve made, get the right bolt, and that will take care of that. Let's move on. What do we have here? All right, that was the case that I repaired, and there it is in its beautiful repaired state. I hope I can read this next one. It's from Jim Evans. I had a question about the color of these vintage Hondas. There seems to be a shade difference in what should be Tahitian red. Some seems to have orange tint to it. Some seems to be really red. I know that the age and they fade sometime and they get more orange than the Tahitian red that I got from VMX. It's more orange than the plastic. Most restorations I've looked at seem to be more red than orange. Joe, what do you think about this? I learned a very valuable lesson from this question, Jim Evans, and I'm going to tell you about it right now. This is right here. This is VMX red plastic. Listen to me carefully. Take notes if you have to. It's going to save you a lot of headaches. VMX red is not Tahitian red. It's more like a Mako red. In fact, it's exceptionally close. Their paint, their Tahitian red paint, does not match this. They make a VMX red. See this here? VMX red. VMX red matches VMX red plastic. It is not Tahitian red. You got me? They make Tahitian red paint. It doesn't match their plastic. It would be good for your frame. It would be good for your engine. It would be good for anything that really is Tahitian red on your bike. I don't know if you want to paint fenders that are plastic out of the can. Two different paints from VMX. VMX red, Tahitian red. Give me a second. I'm going to show you something else. This is a Tahitian red stock CR250 tank, correct? You see what I'm saying? VMX red, Tahitian red. They're not the same. Be careful when you buy paint when you go over there. Be careful when you go to paint your parts in advance. If you have Tahitian red fenders, make sure you get Tahitian red paint. You get VMX red, you're going to have two different things going on there completely. Let's move on. Oh, here it is right here. They actually have it on their website. They call it Tahitian red. And then you saw the can that I had here that I actually bought. It says VMX red. Don't forget, Motion Pro has a 20% off across the board and has been for quite some time. It's only available for Vintage Motocross Q&A viewers. Use the code MP9135, MP9135, and you'll get 20% off. Vintage Motocross Q&A t-shirts and hoodies are available. They start at just $19.99. Susie makes them herself right here. So if you want a t-shirt or a hoodie, a sleeveless, a tank, whatever you want in any color, Susie can make it with prices starting at just $19.99. If you want our logo across the back and you want something like this across the front, well, we do that too for a limited time because it's not going to be long before somebody tells me to stop doing that. We are going to take a break here for just a moment, and we will be right back with more Vintage Motocross Q&A. Susie, you have to be getting close on your.
I have it.
You have your winner for your.
My viewer appreciation winner?
Yeah.
I do.
All right, we'll talk about that when we get back. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll be back right after we hear from our friend Keith McCarty on the International Motocross Museum. Keith, take it away, my man.
Museums around the country. The Barber Museum is pretty big, and they have, products over the years. And the AMA Museum, they do their best. But as on the scale of bikes and, specifically motocross, supercross type things, Terry's vision is unique in that it would only be that, and that it would also be international as well. So from the roots of this sport, all the way through today, let's say, he's acquiring bikes and items, things that if anybody wanted to see where this sport came from and where it is today, they'd be able to do that. So, him and Cindy both have been at this for a long time, sacrificing a lot, like he said, for, the amount of money and things that he's put into it. And hopefully, the OEMs here in the U.S. and maybe around the world will help him with this vision, and hopefully the fans will too.
I'm Heikki Mikkola. We will be right back.
That was perfect, Heikki.
Motocross struck America, coming from Europe like a lightning bolt, striking the hearts and minds of people all across the country and the world. Battles of intense racing and cutting rivalries with loyalty to brands and heroes intensified as years of blood, sweat, and dirt flew through the minds of those memories of champions as they wrestled their machines through almost impossible tracks. But where are those past champions? And where are their bikes? Terry Good, an ex-pro motocross racer, has made it his life mission to honor these heroes and the bikes they rode to stardom. We raced, we rode, we lived and breathed motocross. Go back in time and relive those moments, now preserved for the first time ever in the world's first museum dedicated to the history of motocross. Our new building is in the gate. Help us get a great start and you can be part of history. Go to internationalmotocrossmuseum.org and become a part of our team.
The International Motocross Museum is a not-for-profit 501c3 organization. Be sure to get over there and buy some cool swag from the International Motocross Museum. That's internationalmotocrossmuseum.org. The doors will swing open on the museum sometime in 2025. And Susie tells me that right now we actually have a listener, our viewer appreciation winner. And I'm going to go over to the Susie cam right now. Susie, who is our winner tonight for the International Museum poster?
The winner is George Camacho.
George Camacho.
George Camacho. You are the winner of a poster courtesy of the IMN. And if you get over there and select your poster, you can tell Joe about it, I think. Is that how you do it?
Well, I'm going to tell George about it right now.
Okay.
Here's George. What you want to do is go over to the International Motocross Museum. There's a thing there with all their posters on it. Bob Hanna, Marty Smith, Roger DeCoster, and a couple of others. Go pick out a poster. Send me your mailing address. I will get it to Terry Good. He will wrap up that poster for you. Actually, he doesn't wrap them up. He rolls them up, puts them in a beautiful tube. Within a week, you'll get what you want. George Camacho, thank you for watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, for sharing the show, and congratulations. I think you're possibly a new viewer, and I always like to give away really cool stuff to people when they first start to watch the show. Tell your friends about it as well. In the Moto Showcase tonight, which is brought to you by Preston Petty Products. We've got a nice bike coming up. Don't forget to get over to Preston Petty Products. You can get all the fenders and plastic that we loved as kids. There's also those white number plates and clocks and bangles and bowls, and Paul's got all kinds of stuff over there for your off-road dual purpose, and mini bikes, all sorts of other stuff. Tonight in the Moto Showcase, this isn't the bike, but this is a bike that I had when I was a kid. It's a Bridgestone TMX 100. I loved it. It was one of my most reliable and fun trail bikes I ever had before I had a YZ 125. But the bike we are going to be discussing tonight comes from Brian Webley, and he sent in this 1966 Bridgestone SR 125. It belongs to a very good friend of his named Larry Gower, who lives in Elkins, WV. That's West Virginia, where I come from, right? Larry says the SR means special racer from Bridgestone in the 60s. Larry bought this bike new, and he's had it, and he's been able to keep it his entire life. Larry has raced motocross and flat track with the SR. In the fall of 72, Larry headed off to college in West Chicago, Illinois, and he took the bike with him. The importer of Bridgestone was located in Rockford, Illinois, Rockford Motor Company. There he found a mechanic who had some modifications that they made to the bike. He can't remember his mechanic's name, but the importer highly recommended him. With some mods on the suspension and the shocks and the front forks and the triple clamps, they made a really competitive little bike out of it. They added 3 inches to the length of the swing arm as well. And of course, they made that brake stay a little longer and increased the wheelbase. He also had an MX style handlebars. He raised compression, made an expansion chamber, even had a compression release put on it. It's 175cc twin. It was rated at an amazing 28 horsepower at that time. There was no charging system. They removed the battery, so it was a total loss system, and the bike had to be charged up between races because once you turned it off, that's it. You couldn't start it again without a battery. Larry raced the bike through 75, then parked it for 45 years. Larry had the bike restored to new condition in 2020, and as you can see, it is now less the number plates. Thank you for checking this bike out, Joe. Larry just turned 70 last Sunday. He's so thrilled to relive these times, and he wants to thank you too. Signed, Brian Webley. Well, Brian Webley, I want to thank you for sending that bike in. We have some other pictures of it right here, what it looked like before, an ad from the magazine. And yeah, here he is, Big Larry, with his Bridgestone 175 SR. We're going to go to, you know what I had to do? It seems like I'm doing a lot of this tonight, but you know what we're going to, oh, here's what we're going to do. First of all, I'm doing a lot of things, but I'm doing 3 things at once, and I'm not being clear about it. Brian Webley, I have your address. I will get you some stickers, compliments of Vintage Motocross Q&A. The next segment coming up is the Did You Know segment. This is a follow-up from Jeff Kokoski from last week. This is a very, very long segment. Should I go into it now, or should I break for a commercial, or what should we do here? Here's what I'm going to do. It's really long. I got to break for a commercial. When I get back, we'll do the follow-up from last week's segment from Jeff Kokoski about Marty Moats, No Fear, and a couple of other things that were going on there at that time. All right, let's go with, we haven't heard from him in a long time, and I hate doing this because I just hear myself talk again, but... Hey, it's Joe Abbate for Vintage Motocross Q&A. One of my favorite tools from Motion Pro is their T-handle wrench with the special JIS tips on it. What I really like about it is there's a little opening on each end. You can put your tip in there. It's magnetic. You don't have to worry about losing it. This is a great item to have, especially for you vintage guys where you've got your screws, with JIS screws in the cases. They're very, very hard to get out. Nothing gives you more torque and better grip than a T-handle wrench. Get over to motionpro.com or see your local dealer. Don't forget, go to Vintage Motocross Q&A for a 20% discount on all Motion Pro tools. Did you know? Did you know it's brought to you by, well, it's brought to you by Jeff Kokoski. Actually, he's the one that works on these amazing segments every week. And Jeff last week sent in something about Marty Moats and No Fear and the Bad Boy line and a whole bunch of other stuff too. But we're going to follow up on that right now with the second half of it. Part 2. In our previous segment, we talked about how Marty Moats got involved with the Simo brothers, LOP or LOP, and how Life's a Beach and the Bad Boy Club got started and went up in flames as quickly as they started. This week, we'll take a look at the next chapter of the story. Because of how spectacularly Life's a Beach and Bad Boy Club business ended around 1989 for twins Mark and Brian Simo and their childhood racer friend Jeff Theodosakis. The three pretty much parted company, and they were kind of dark times. Anyway, but the brothers took their painful business knowledge with them, and they gained some that, and they decided to start again. One day, during a drug-laden stupor, from what I researched, Jeff said, their buddy Boogaloo, who came around up and with an idea about the original Bad Boy logo, took a red paintbrush and wrote "No Fear" on the wall in the art room. A spark went off with Mark Simo. By now, Marty Moats had been back in the States in a few years after racing in Australia. His pro motocross career was over, and he was working for a car dealership in San Clemente. There's a picture of Marty Moats right here. Marty called Mark one day, and he said he was going through a divorce. He didn't know what to do. The Simos brothers invited their old friend Marty Moats into their new startup business called, you guessed it, No Fear. They didn't have enough money to make shorts, so they previously did with the Life's a Beach. They started off focusing on T-shirts. Meanwhile, their friend Ricky Johnson, motocross career, his career was winding down after the wrist injury. It was 1989. And he started a new chapter in his life that involved racing cars and some off-road trucks. RJ was still close with the Simos, and he was interested in seeing No Fear take off. So he introduced his contacts in the four-wheel drive racing world to the No Fear trio. Pretty soon, No Fear stickers were popping up everywhere. They were on the fringe at the time. There were extreme sports that were taking off, like skydiving, bungee jumping, and the X Games, such as stuff like that. The risk-taking brought on by the sport symbolized the No Fear brand, and the people bought out apparel as fast as they brought it to the stores. Right after the LA police officers were acquired, this is a good part of the story. Right after 4 LA police officers were acquitted of using excessive force against Rodney King in the LA streets were suddenly ablaze with riots, rapper Ice-T had written a song, Cop Killer. He appeared on CNN wearing a No Fear hat. It was a huge accidental clash for the culture. It ended up selling over $100 million in sales, doing over $100 million sales within the next year. They couldn't find enough T-shirts in California. They had to get a hold of Haynes, who gave them 1 million shirts over 3 years. Interest in the brand absolutely exploded, and things went wild. Interest in the brand extended to shorts, jackets, sweatshirts, and so much more. A number of years of his life were crashing. Then, wait a minute. A number of years after his life-altering crash, they even hired David Bailey as a graphic designer. Then they scored big with RJ when he convinced Jeremy McGrath to buy into the company. Things really took off with McGrath, and not only did they develop the usual jerseys, they started making race pants as well. Along with McGrath, Wyndham got involved. Sebastian Tortelli, even Stefan Everts was sponsored by No Fear at the time. Travis Pastrana gave him a lot of print also when he was involved in the X Games. In December of 2006, disaster struck. Founding member and vice president Marty Moats sadly committed suicide. To this day, nobody really knows why. Was it the pain from the race injuries? Was it the business? Could it have been something else? Primarily, he was responsible for enforcing the trademark rights and No Fear, and got along with everyone. Marty Tripes loved motocross. He never made enough money really to become rich through competition, but he did it a lot just for his love of the sport. He was the consummate working class underdog. At his funeral, motocross royalty stood there from San Diego, names you would recognize. Of course, Ricky Johnson, Marty Smith, Brock Glover, Marty Tripes, and Ron Lachine. At the end of that ceremony, they played, of course, the famous video of Marty Tripes winning the USGP that day in 1980. What a story that was, and we can't really talk much more about that. The recession hit in 2008. It was really the final nail that ended in that coffin. Later that summer, the company was bought out by a UK-based sports retailer, Fraser Group, who had at that time already owned Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, and Puma. They had all those names under their umbrella. No Fear had started off in the early 90s with $2 million in debt, and within 4 years, they were doing an annual sales of $130 million. They were obviously doing something right. Not bad for a bunch of goofy kids who just started off having fun and writing the words No Fear on the wall. What a career. Marty Moats, the No Fear guys, and Jeff Kokoski. I mean, things like that, that's a show within itself, Jeff. Thank you so much for putting the time into that and bringing us all that great information as you do every week. Jeff Kokoski. We already mentioned the
The viewer appreciation winner?
Yeah, we already mentioned the viewer appreciation thing. I just want to get one more look at the ladder cam. I love the ladder cam. I don't know what else we're gonna do with that, but in the meantime, it's there, and we're gonna jump over and hear from our good friend Paul Parkinson Sr. about his amazing company. He does so much for this industry. It's absolutely incredible. Of course, I'm speaking about, what's the name of it, Susie? Replica Motorcycle Parts.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Parkinson with Replica Motorcycle Parts. I'm sitting here with our test bike, which is ridden by Jerry Maddox. It carries the #1 plate in the U.S. So let's go over a couple of the parts that we've got on here. We've got our ignition cover with the case saver built into it, so that when the chain comes off, you're not damaging your cases. Spacer, foot pegs. Jerry runs our air box. Seat brackets, keeps the seat on tight so he doesn't fall off when he's going over the whoops. And then on this side, Jerry runs a couple little things, a lot of little rubber parts on the bike, and stuff are all done by us. And then down here we've got our brake pedal, which has got needle bearings in there, and then it's got a wider toe peg, so it gives them a real nice, clean, easy to use brake. And then this is our latest part. This is a CR250 type knuckle. In fact, Honda used them on the last versions of the MR175s, and this is a real trick aluminum Kickstarter arm. So that gives them lightweight, strength, and reliability more than anything else. Reliability.
There you have it. Paul Parkinson Sr. and ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com. They make some incredible stuff, and more things are coming down the pike in the future. I can tell you that for sure. Right now, don't forget, one of the most elusive parts in all of motocross, the pickle silencer for the 1973 CR 125 and 250. Go over to ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com right now, and you can get one for $600. They've also got chain guides like this that are long guard for your KX 125. He makes them for the 250 and the 400 as well. Paul Parkinson Sr., we thank you so much for all you do for us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. This Week in Motocross History is brought to you by Racer X, available on your newsstand now, also available online. It was 1974. The final round of the FIM 500cc World Championship. Finland's Heikki Mikkola won his first world title by finishing 1-6 in the mud at Luxembourg, ending his rival Roger de Coster's 3-year winning streak. The winner of the race was Belgium's Jacques van Veldhoven on a Yamaha. The championship would mark Husqvarna's last of many in the FIM 500cc championship category till Jackie Martin's in 1993. 1985, check out this team, huh? Team Honda's Ron Lechien clinched the 1985 AMA 125cc National Championship with a win at the next to last round at Spring Creek, Millville, Minnesota. The Dogger was followed by Yamaha's Keith Bowen and Suzuki's rider George Holland and A.J. Whiting. In the 250 class at Millville, Bob Hanna showed him that he still had it with super speed, and he won, going 1-2. What would turn out to be his last AMA national victory in his epic career. Hanna's teammate Johnny O'Mara, he went 3-1 that day. In the 500 class, Brock Glover had already clinched the title, his 6th, at the previous round in Binghamton, New York. And he decided to sit out at Spring Creek. Enter David Bailey. He's in the picture too. He took full advantage of Brock taking the day off. He went 1-1 on the Works Honda, despite riding with a heavily bandaged wrist. Boy, what a powerhouse team that was in 1985. In 1991, Jean-Michel Bayle dominates the Washougal 500 National, going 1-1 on his factory Honda CR500. Bayle, who has already claimed in 1991 the AMA Supercross and AMA 250C motocross titles, will soon add the 500 title as well. The only time in motocross history that someone has ever accomplished that feat. Susie, are you digging what I'm saying here, Susie?
I am digging.
Jean-Michel Bayle in one season, 1991, Supercross and 250, which has been done by a couple of guys, including Donnie Hansen and I think Jeff Stanton, I think Ricky Johnson. But he won the 500cc outdoor national championship in 1 year. Absolutely incredible. Jean-Michel Bayle, of course, went on to be very successful road racer, and I think he had some experience with race cars as well. You want to become a sponsor of Vintage Motocross Q&A, get a hold of me. We'll get your name up on the board just like you see it right here. Motion Pro, been with me for 4 years. Full Circle Racing, 4 years. Vinco, over 4 years. And all the other people that have helped out as well. Now, if you don't have a business, you don't want to be a sponsor, you can be a show supporter. $50. We'll get your name up on the board just like you see it here. And we'll send you a t-shirt as well in black, white, or gray, of course, your specific size, just $49.95. Get a hold of me or Susie. Please become a show supporter. You know whose birthday it is today, this actual day? Jimmy Weiner. Jimmy Weiner, great guy, of course, a national champion in the 500cc class 2 times. And a lot of people forget this. He was a 250cc Supercross champion as well. On August 11th, Pierre Karsmakers, it was his birthday as well. So both the Jammer and Pepe celebrating birthdays this week. Scott and Debbie Burnworth have the 3rd race of the year coming up. It's a couple of months away, but I'd like to give everybody a good head start on that. The SoCal MX Classic, the 3rd round, happens October 5th at Glen Helen. This weekend, if you're up in New York State, get over to Moto Masters in Mexico, New York. A very historic track. The annual New York Vintage State Championship is happening this weekend, August 17th and 18th at Moto Masters. And you know, I talked about this guy a little bit earlier in the show. My new friend Ben over at Vintage Mini Bike Lovers. And you know what? A lot of us on this page, many of us began on maybe YZ80s or XR75s, but there may be a couple of us that started off like this little guy right here back in 1970. On a little Cat Muskin mini bike. Yes, that is your truly on my first mini bike. Got a good report card that year. Mom and Dad came through, got me a brand new mini bike, $149, 3 horsepower. I was the envy and yet the most hated kid in the neighborhood. That continues on to this day. I love it. Anyway, then he's got the mini bike podcast coming up. The next live show is September 8th. That wraps it up for this week's episode of Vintage Motocross Q&A. I want to congratulate, his name was Camacho. What was his first name? Was it Frank?
It wasn't Hector.
Was it Hector Macho Camacho?
No, it's George.
George Camacho. Get us your mailing address. We'll get you a poster, compliments of Terry Good and the International Motocross Museum. That wraps it up for this episode of Vintage Motocross Q&A. I'm your host, Joe Abbate. That is about it. I don't know where he is. Hang on. Let me see. Because I got the air conditioner running in here, and he's inside. And Gino, come on, boy. Oh, there he is. Okay, that's it. Good night from Gino and Joe Abbate and Vintage Motocross Q&A. We'll see you next time. So much. I'm going back, even though the show's over, I'm going back to the, you're still on and they can hear you, so be careful. I went back to the ladder cam, Vintage Motocross Q&A ladder cam. It's still on right now.
Oh, is it?
It is. Look how cute your legs are in this video. That's adorable, Susan.
Eamon wants a check.
Eamon wants a check?
Yeah, he
All
said
right.
he wants a check too.
I'm wrapping it up. That's it for Vintage Motocross Q&A. I'm tired. I'm hungry. Get off my lawn.